Hello. I can't hear you.
If I talk now, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is interesting. So it does not like to use an external microphone, which is unfortunate. It sees the external microphone, but it does not seem to hear it. And also, I can't hear you when I
You
have
can't
an
hear
external.
me?
No, I can now, but when I had the external set up, I couldn't. So apparently, oh, you know what? This is like an iPhone. So when you have an external microphone hooked up to the iPhone, normally the microphone works, but what happens is it sees an audio device as both speakers and a microphone. And so it won't let it like separate and let me like hear you through the speakers and then also talk to you through the microphone. So this is pointless because it's not connected.
Looks cool though.
Yeah, it looks cool. We're waiting on Wulf. Oh, Wulf appears to be in the waiting room. There we go.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, how is the 2-week vacation?
It exists. I have words about fireworks. Anyway.
I'm on vacation too. So lovely.
We're all vacationing.
I'm not. I'm still working. I still get up at 5 in the morning.
I took yesterday and today off because Blair is out of town in Canada with her kids. And I had my kids last night and I have them tomorrow night, but not during the day yesterday and not during the day today. So I was like, I'm just going to take 2 days off and just have the house to myself and have it be quiet.
That's always nice.
That is.
It has been very nice, very nice. All right, how is everyone doing today?
I'm alive.
I'm existing. I manifested from the shadows to be here.
All right. Well, that's a good thing because tonight Wulf is hosting Writers Group, and so I am going to pass it off to Wulf, and I'm going to shut up and let him tell us what we're doing.
Hello, everybody. I'm Wulf Lovelace. I am the author of Shadow Game, The Silent Scream. I will be hosting tonight. We are a triangle of hosting. You got Neil Vispir, and we do this every 2 weeks. I'm doing Neil's actual job, showing him how to actually host a podcast. I'm kidding.
As soon as I handed it off to you, I was like, oh shit, I forgot to do all the things that I'm supposed to do, and Wulf is going to do them.
That's the point of Wulf.
Yeah. So the way that this is hosted is that we have a little bit of a prompt, but the way that we're doing prompts is not necessarily focused on So prompts in the past, usually if you're watching other writers, the way that they do prompts is they'll give you X thing and then you write X thing. Whereas we're focused more on story craft and how to craft stories and craft and utilize tools and skill sets. So our prompt today will be describing, and this is my mistake, I did not explain this properly, but I will think it is describing setting through sound and music. Often a lot of writers forget to use sound in their descriptions. They have all of the wonderful visuals, but they always forget sense and sounds. And so I wanted to focus on sense and sounds. We'll be reading some of our prompts, and then we'll roll over into the discussion portion, and we'll be having discussions about how writing and writing books are forms of communication and language. I used to be a journalist, guys.
Go Wolf.
Yay. All right. So how do we want to do this? Out of the two of you, who wants to go first?
I can go first. Let's get
All
mine
right.
out of the way. It's short
Let's
and
go.
sweet.
Let's go with Spira.
It's called Lotus Girls. And it's an experimental piece that I've done a couple of times, but I wanted to always rework it. So I'm trying to extend like the different viewpoints. So the viewpoint first that gets introduced is the male leads. Bad side, dark side, no light, places in shambles, ripped and torn cloth, rags on feet, the chill never ending, shoes are luxury. A luxury never seen or heard, clean water valued more than souls. Dirty faces, smudged cloth, bad side, dark side, no light, small light. Ladies of the night, big red dresses, under patch roofs, where laughter and drink are past. Dark side, bad side, no light, small light, faint light, dark light. Hidden in the depths, down dark paths, beggars unable to walk, warn of any bobby's closeness. A little further where dim light swings and souls echo, where the coin sings and the tap of the cane rains. Next part's called Halo. Frozen eyes falling upon golden curls, breath felt, my hands longing to reach. Such a good girl, unseen before, kneeling beside a beggar, offering him a few gold coins. Who is this saint on sides of dark? Who is this dream with no man? Hand tightens around the cane, harsh breaths, a redness to my vision, a warning, a chiding, stark reminders are needed. Exchange. Words exchanged. Words changed, heated, raw, and blazing, pressed against. Words exchanged, change, duration, interruption. And then vision of two. Down metal flights, a balcony above, a mimic, a doll, drone with wild abandonment. Tighter curls, meaner demeanor, look down upon me, breath caught in a vision of two. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'll be the first so that Wolf can come in and tell me how I'm wrong.
I'll probably tell you you're right.
But
Well, actually, I need to interrupt you, Neil, real quick. But Spiro, you also didn't do the thing. You didn't introduce yourself and didn't you just went into the prompt. Anyway.
Shame on me.
So I have the first thing I want to say is that I admire your writing style. I feel like it is very reflective of the way I write in terms of repeating things to bring attention to them. And you have a rhythm to your writing and a cadence that I think is very effective. I'm going to tell you, and this has nothing to do with your writing, but I'm just, as a friend, like nickel's worth of free advice. When you're reading it, take a breath. Because it feels like you're just trying to get all the words out fast and get it over with, instead of giving it the rhythm that I know you wrote it in, and that I know that you hear in your head. So just take a breath, because I know that it's hard to read stories out loud and it feels like you're just trying to get through it. That being said, the only criticism I'm going to give you is that you didn't follow the... have it on Do Not Disturb, but my daughter gets to break through. I don't think you followed the prompt. The prompt was to write about sound or audio, or even if you follow the literal thing in the spreadsheet, it said music, and I was counting the number of times that I heard you refer to anything audio, and I counted like 3. So I understand that you were trying to rework something, but it doesn't. I don't feel like we followed the assignment in terms of like trying to highlight description through audio. That being said, like, it was a beautiful piece, and it sound, I think that it's a great beginning to a piece of fiction. I just struggled with it in terms of what we were doing for today. Wolf?
I'm here. All right. No, this might be the one time that I actually agree with Neil. I thought we were going somewhere once you started introducing the sound, because I can understand. Oh, where'd he go? Ah.
How much did I lose with you guys?
Not much, because I got really distracted. Anyway, what do you call it? I thought we were going somewhere, because and not only that, but I wasn't even quite. So I really love experimental pieces and stream of consciousness. Actually, maybe I am wrong. Hold on. Let me reconsider this and rethink this. By the way, you don't need to censor yourself, Vispira. I noticed that you skipped some lines on TikTok. Hold on. No, we're both wrong. Give me a second here. I just had a moment. Cause you watching my brain work in real time here.
Brains don't work in real time.
Because you missed a couple of lines that I read out and thing. Who is this wet dream with no owner? And then harsh breaths and stark reminder thing. First off, you can say wet dream on YouTube. I actually lied. The sound is basically the sound of self-pleasure, I think, is what Fitzgerald was trying to get at. And the imaginary things, especially when you have terms of harsh breaths and the way that the individual things. Well, you're going to talk after this, but if that's the case, then yeah, you followed the prompt. You just followed the prompt in a way that we didn't even consider that we would follow the prompt. I didn't even consider that until we watched my brain thing. I think that it's a lovely piece, and I think that it's wonderful, and I really like stream of consciousness. I also like that kind of almost subtle self pleasantries. What do you call it? The more subtle acts of sexiness. I'm just gonna go with my reigning theory, and if I made you embarrassed with Zero, don't.
I'm not embarrassed.
And if that's the case, then yeah, it did follow the thing. It just didn't follow it in maybe the literal way that we would have interpreted it, but that's actually amazing and wonderful, because then it means that you taught me something today, because I didn't even consider sound through sexual pleasure. So yeah.
Well, it's technically the sounds you would think would be entitled to sexual pleasure, because you're supposed to think of it like that. This guy is supposed to be the embodiment. Everything he's thinking of it. Because it's supposed to be a really dark thing eventually.
No, I get it. I think that I actually think it was just very subtle. So we actually got more than just the three sounds that Neil thinged. Yes, we got the sound of the coin and the cane, but also we got terms like harsh breaths. And then almost if you can read it, if you read it the way that I think that I'm supposed to read it because I reread it, then this is almost like the sound of the thoughts as you go through it or spin through it. Are you okay, Neil? You've got like really like RBF going on today.
Do I? I'm sorry. No, I am totally good. Totally
Okay.
good.
I just want to check in on you.
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I got to say. Sorry, I got really excited instead of an actual critique.
Well, if this is when you tell Vespera she's allowed to talk.
You're allowed to talk, Vespera.
Oh, I'm allowed to talk?
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No. This is a piece that's gonna eventually involve three people. It involves a set of twins and one guy who's having relations with both of them. And eventually, both the people find out and they escape. And like it ends like the girl's jumping off like a bridge.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's one of those upbeat romantic comedy kind of things.
Yeah. With dark endings. But no, it was mainly supposed to be like each section. I wanted to change it because originally it was just 18 poems. And it was like one was him, one was her, one was the other girl. So it would alternate and you would be able to tell who was speaking because they all carried a different rhythm or a different way or a different type of beat. But I wanted to like kind of like expand upon that. And I'm not so sure I was like capable of doing it because eventually I do want to incorporate more sounds and more like imagery, but I want to do it in a way that it doesn't really break what I'm doing.
No, that makes sense. When you call it, we can totally polish this piece because now that I see what you're trying to do, I think that it's brilliant and that we can totally work on this thing because I think that this could be like actually, what do you call it, expanded upon, especially if you're going in the direction that I think you're going, and I'm like, oh, I'm into this now. Now, because you're absolutely right. There is a rhythm involved in it, and like a sort of like yeah. Yes, Theo.
I'm just waiting for like someone to like instruct.
Oh.
I'm waiting for a host.
Oh, you're waiting for the host. Well, okay. Neil, would you like to go next?
If you'd like me to.
I'd like you to.
All right.
Let me open up your submission.
Okay. He came at me fast, unexpected. A pivot on the ball of his foot that ground the gravel into the dirt with a soft scratching sound. 2 steps, crunch, crunch. Then the sound of a wet towel hitting the floor as his fist missed my jaw and landed on my left shoulder. The pain shot sharp up my neck, then mellowed into a low ache. I tripped back and caught myself, but the punches kept coming. Silent, short misses, and dull, muffled slaps when contact was made. I had my arms up by now, forearms together, blocking my face from the onslaught. There was the crunch of breaking glass as his ring hit the center of my dad's old watch on my wrist. He was shouting something about wanting to kill me, the specifics of which don't really seem to matter in the big picture. I couldn't get my head together enough to rebut whatever it was he was upset about. All I could do was to shout, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" over and over again. I doubt whether he even heard me over his own senseless blubbering. The bones in my arms were starting to ache from the bludgeoning, and they were taking what I could feel in my knee The bones in my arms were starting to ache from the bludgeoning they were taking, and I could feel my knees wanting to give out. Blood pumping behind my ears, creating the rushing static sound of a mistuned television next to whitewater rapids. Sweat pressing its way out of the pores in the back of my neck like needles and running down under my shirt, causing me to itch at my neckline. He was still screaming, but his voice was starting to sound hoarse. Longer and longer pauses for breath between the threats and expletives. Finally, he started coughing and stopped throwing punches to bend over and hold his chest. I didn't let sympathy allow the moment to escape. I charged forward and shoved him by his shoulders. He didn't see it coming and fell on his ass, letting go of his heart to catch the ground. I pounced forward and shoved my knee into his stomach and heard a crack like a breaking branch, one of his ribs removing itself from its preferred location. My hands were in his face, fingers digging into his cheeks and eyes. I crushed the cartilage of his nose with a blow that sounded like paper crumpling. Punch after punch, finding the sharp edges of his cheeks, bones and eye sockets, the tiny bones in my fingers snapping like campfire spit. Finally, I ran out of energy to continue. I collapsed down on his body, and the two of us breathed into each other's faces, his lungs rattling like stones in a garbage disposal.
I believe that it's only fair for the spirit to go since Neil went with her piece first.
I think so.
Very nicely done. But I did not hear the music. I'm kidding. I always like the vivid imagery you paint, and I think you did a very good job, including sound. That's all I have. I'm sorry.
You're all good. All right. I'll go next then. I actually genuinely like this piece because you've done two different things, Neil. Something that I also wanted to discuss at some point in time in this, but this is a really good introductory. It's about the way that people write fight scenes in general, is that they always focus on technical and logical terms, whereas you can see the entire fight that's happening right now, and you don't need to be like, I threw my right hook at his left cheek, and you're like, what? This is so mechanical. So you've actually done two different things that I really like. One of them is writing an entire fight scene through sound alone, which already gives you the visualization, and it actually gives like the understanding of how sound can be used to elevate a scene and to describe a scene without having to go into like like I grabbed him by my right arm and flipped him over my left shoulder, and we don't get any of those distractions. And I genuinely like some of the descriptions used in here a lot, actually. I liked the last line, his lungs rattling like stones in a garbage disposal. Where was the other one that I really liked too? I really liked the what do you call it? I crushed the cartilage in his nose with a blow that sounded like paper crumpling. Was really, really nice. I like this piece a lot. I think that once you get really into it, it's really good. I think the very starting stanza in comparison to all the others, I know I just said stanza because I'm writing poetry, but the very first one, he came at me fast, unexpected, a pivot on the ball of his foot, gravel with the soft scratching sound, 2 steps, crunch, crunch. I feel like that could be strengthened considering all of the strength of the rest of the piece. Definitely, but otherwise, I really like what you've done here because this is a really good example of doing two things at once. One is using sound to be able to elevate action and direct action without ever actually having to use any action or any physical interactions. But I also just like the way that you are able to use metaphors and similes in ways and you can actually hear what's going on physically. So that's what I have.
Yeah, I could honestly learn a thing or two from this piece.
You're good now, Neil. You may speak.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of had to write this in a hurry because I had written a piece that was more music focused, Vespera, because that's what was in the spreadsheet. And then Wolf like clarified at kind of like the middle of the day today
You
that
could
he
have
was like,
given the
oh
music.
no, it's not just music. It's like, I just want you to use sound. And I was like, oh, well, that's a different thing. And so I kind of went back and rewrote this real quick. And I agree that the first paragraph is weaker than the rest because I was kind of like getting there, right? I was warming up. I was getting into the
I actually like the first paragraph.
I like writing. I always get this wrong. In media res, where you're starting in the middle of the action, and so I don't like giving like a lot of build up to a moment. I like to just start a little bit further into it. And so I was like, okay, well, this has already started. Like he's coming at you. Like we don't care why, we don't care what the motivation is. We're just going into it. And then the sound just comes from like the idea of what things sound like in real life as opposed to what they sound like in a movie. When someone hits someone in the face in a real movie, you hear this big whap, right? This big boom. But if you think about it, like there's nothing there. There's nothing to make a sound. And so like the best you're gonna get is hitting like something that's got a lot of like fat on it, and you get a nice like whap, like slap sound. And it's flat. So when I go to write fight scenes, it's very important to me that they sound and feel real, that they sound and feel like they would in real life as opposed to how they do in the movies. Now, obviously, you still have to elevate it a little bit because fight scenes are pretty much people laying on the ground, like just, hitting at each other. But yeah, I want it to sound and feel kind of authentic. So I try to use descriptions that are more muted and that are more simple. And I appreciate that the two examples you gave that you liked, Wolf, but right in the middle of those two, you skipped my favorite example, which was when he's punching the guy in the face and he says, I could hear the small bones in my hands snapping like campfire spit.
I liked that one too a lot.
Yeah, like the when the ember shoots off of the fire and you just hear that little snap and the ember shoots. And so I was like, oh, what would I call that? Like when the ember, you gotta like reduce it because you can't say that the sound that it makes when a campfire ember fires off into the night, like that gets too wordy. So you just call it campfire spit. Yeah. And everybody knows what you're talking about. And so yeah, that's what I was doing there. And this was fun. I enjoyed this, and I think you're right. We do have a tendency to forget about sound and smell too. Smell. Mm-hmm. I think though that people, they hear about forgetting about smell and then they go in and try to like really be conscious of that, but then they still forget about sound. And I think you're right that sound is important.
Yeah, I think sound is just as important. Yeah, I think that it requires all the sense. Because I write horror, you have to tap into all of those scents. Like recently, I was writing a scene about scent. What do you call it? I had a charred victim, and it's not just going to be a charred victim. Their skin isn't going to be black and crackly. It's going to smell like burning fat and like hair that's been like singed, and it's gonna be nasty.
Blair and I just watched the other night, just this Tuesday night, maybe it was Tuesday night. We watched The Substance for the first time.
Oh, that's such a good fucking movie.
It's so good, but there was a point where Blair's like, okay, are you going to tell me when I can open my eyes? I go, I don't know. My eyes are closed too. We're both like, neither of us are watching the movie at this point. We're just like, both like, holy fucking shit. No, I can't watch this. That movie was so good. It had so much to say. It was so well made. I haven't watched a body horror movie in so long that it really took me, like I was in a bad place for a lot of that. But
I don't think I could ever watch body horror.
Oh my god,
it's my
that movie,
favorite genre.
Oh, it was so hard. It was so hard. And you know what? I can do the like really like over the top stuff, right? Like at the end with the blood spraying, I didn't have to close my eyes. And like at certain points when there are things that are like so like this could never happen, it doesn't freak me out as much as the little things that literally could happen. And I'm like, oh, I can't. No, don't. Oh. And that movie did exactly what they intended it to do. That's what I love, is when I see a movie or I read a book where, like it or hate it, you can say, I hated that because of this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, even if you hated it, you have to admit that the book or the movie did what the creator intended it to do. It was exactly what they wanted it to be. And I will say that for The Substance, man. That movie did exactly what it wanted to do.
Oh, The Substance is so good. I mean, I write body horror. It's one of my favorite things in the entire world. I love body horror and I love Substance. And if I have to say anything about The Substance, is it's the modern day Fly. It's so good.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't even think of that, but you're absolutely right. It is, and not like the original Fly, but the Jeff Goldblum Fly. Yes, it is exactly that, except with a commentary on misogyny and
ageism,
and sexism and just like this idea of needing to be better. This is going to derail things, and Wolf still needs to read, but I want to talk about this real quick with you. The one problem I had with the whole movie, and I mean it's down to axiomatic issues, is that I didn't understand why she would even do it in the first place. Like it makes sense if they have a psychic connection after they're separated and she is literally vicariously living the other person's life, but it doesn't imply that at all. Like she doesn't seem to know what's going on in the other person's life. So why the fuck would you even do it?
Oh, I think that so like if we're talking about misogyny here, I think that we need to discuss like the pressures that often, and some of them are always some of them are subconscious, but the way that society pressures women to not age or pressures women not to think.
Right.
So I think that would be the reason why she would make that decision.
But that's the problem I have, Wolf, is that nobody knew that they were connected, right? It wasn't like she was getting credit for being beautiful. It wasn't like she was like getting to feel like she was beautiful. It wasn't like she got to experience any of the things that the beautiful young version of her. It was more, you know what it felt like? It was more of a commentary on the way potentially mothers treat daughters.
I could see that. I also think, though, that that's something that we could discuss. We can add that later. But what do you call it? But I will bring it up right now. Is it's something really great about how we had this discussion before, and about my own book. I'm not trying to plug. I'm just talking here. Is that I wrote my book to be a little bit more blunt because I think that my only criticism about the substance is that they want to have their cake and eat it too, where they want to make the point and they want to like have like the commentary about ageism, but then they threw in the whole entire psychic connection thing because they didn't quite want to tiptoe into the actual discussions that we
No,
need to
but
have.
that's my point, is that I didn't feel like there was any psychic connection. If they had put that in there, I would have understood it more.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like there wasn't any kind of psychic connection, and therefore I didn't understand why she would be going through it. That being said, like the end of the movie was absolutely perfect. Like, and it was predictable to the point where Blair literally called it out like a minute before it happened. She said, "This is how it's going to end," and then it happened exactly as she said. But also, that's not bad because she called it out because it makes sense. Like narratively, that's what I would do too. Like
Right,
it is the way to make the point of the movie. Literally, the end of the movie puts a sharpened point on what the point of the movie is. Anyway, I'm sorry for derailing the conversation, and Wolf, it is your turn to read.
All right. So I brought a piece. Uh, Basically, I was just doing this because I'm already knee deep in a project right now, and I was working on because something again. So we're talking about like story building and storycraft, and like one of the common things that people seem to forget is sound. They forget scent. They forget like all kinds of interesting things. And another one, like in fantasy settings, and I understand filler, but we can talk about that a little bit later. I won't derail it completely. But the concept of filler at the sacrifice of world building and holidays are very important to culture. And what do you call it? And so I'm working on like how I want to depict this holiday that's happening in the book. And so this was just kind of like my experimental piece of thing. This would be following one of the characters kind of going about their day. Okay. So I just titled it All Souls Day. Echo City on a normal day is quiet. You may hear the distant sounds of buses coming to the stop, coming to. Hold on. You may hear the distant sounds of buses coming to a stop and the whining of their electric engines. Distant conversations carry on sidewalks as people pass by and talk to each other on the street. The murmuring voices sort of travel along the path like a haunting of people. Or music can be heard from the music quarter at night. Depending on distance, the music sounds warped and distorted. On All Souls Day, however, a population of 800 feels much bigger than that. It feels like a city of millions. As conversations congeal together, it's all layered together with music being played by local musicians. Violins whine as someone speaks a lost language through a microphone. Sorrowful chanting comes as a prayer for restful peace, a plea to the terminal. It's odd seeing people honor the Revenant in this setting. Ordinarily, the Revenants are depicted in a darker light. I don't even think most people see the Revenants as necessarily good. Royal's book makes the Revenants sound callous and cruel at best, and at worst, beings of evil. I think some of these people think they die due to the cruelty of the Revenant, which makes All Souls Day weird. Yet there's a good in it as well, which adds to its oddness. I wonder if this is how Royal ever wanted to see All Souls Day transform and change in this way. These days it's about the end of the cycle and the awakening of a new cycle. Death is a cycle, someone once said, but I don't remember who. I simply remember hearing it once. Death is a cycle, the same as the seasons are a cycle. Death brings new life and brings peace to old life. Here I'm attempting to navigate a city, elbow to elbow sometimes, just to get to Angel View Hospital, to meet up with Vivek. Whether this is good or bad, I don't know yet. He's meeting my mother. I'm in between people's conversations, people speaking hopefully about what their new cycle will look like in January, here. Someone grieving the loss of a loved one over there. Someone else providing comfort over there. The city I know, which has people sporadically spawn out of buildings for lunch or breakfast or take their children out to play, has become a fight to squeeze out of pockets of people gathered on the side of paths or in the bus lanes, as everyone is gathered around a makeshift stage in the center of town, close to the town square park. As orators perform tales of stories depicting the spirit wars, musicians double as something like faith healers singing hymns. Meanwhile, someone is talking about getting someone's coat out of their closet on the other end of here. Finally free from the crowd, but their conversations and their voices still haven't stopped. There is just no clarity any longer on what they're talking about. I'll let you guys fight amongst who wants to go first.
V?
That was a quick battle.
No.
Go ahead, Neil.
Oh, okay. I mean, there was definitely good description, and audio was definitely peppered in there. And I understand that you're like, I feel like I went a little heavy because I was trying to like meet the prompt. And obviously when you're writing prose, you don't have to like, you don't have to focus solely on the audio, but your prompt is pointing out the idea of bringing audio in when people normally ignore sounds. But so you definitely had some good audio representation in there. I don't have any specific comments on that. I think it's a beautiful scene. I think it's a beautiful idea of taking an idea of a holiday and kind of sort of deconstructing it for the audience and discussing what it really means. So I feel like, and I don't have a lot of room to say this because my scene was definitely like just a little snapshot, but I feel like I'm missing a wider context for the purpose of the scene. But I'm sure that exists in the narrative of the piece that it's in. So I kept kind of like in my head, like looking for that wider narrative reference, even though it doesn't need to exist in these 500 words. So yeah, I mean, your writing, I think your writing is beautiful. You have a narrative style that is uniquely Wulf. You could pick out your writing from a group easily, just from the narrative style. And I think it's beautiful. I think that you do a good job.
We lost him again.
Goodbye, Neil.
We mourn you.
Yeah, should we start playing some
Setting
trumpets?
a scene and painting a scene and getting us emotionally invested in the scene. I just in this particular piece was just like dying to have kind of that wider reference that I'm sure exists in the bigger piece. Vespera.
I could really learn a thing from both of you.
I lost audio.
Can you hear me, Wolf?
I can
Is
hear
Vespera muted or?
No, I can hear her.
Can you hear me now?
Can I type? Yeah, because I can hear Vespera.
We lost him again.
I know. Let's trumpet again.
Okay, you're all back for me. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
You're all good.
This is the first time I have not dropped a group. quiet at all. I haven't dropped a group a single time tonight.
Spira, it's your turn.
I think, like I said, I could really learn a thing from both of you. You guys have such amazing descriptions and sounds and different things that I don't think of, or like I think of until later. Like I just have nothing bad to say, or nothing like. I enjoy your writing so much, and you know this, and I enjoy your ideas. And I like what you're trying to do with it, but Neil might be right with like trying to have more context into it at first. But other than that, like, it's amazing. I'm done.
I can accept that. I find that I really have a hard time. Now, this wouldn't be necessarily considered a work in progress. This was literally me just kind of like, sometimes I'll write down a scene in my head, to help me outline our plot for the
I
book
do.
and get the idea down. But I do realize that every time that I do work on my projects, my chapters are so succinct and require so much context within each other. They flow so well into each other that it's really hard to give people like a snippet of what's being done because they have no greater context, because the greater context has been already interwoven. And so I admit that I can accept that. My idea with this was the way to utilize sound in this case was to utilize the sound not as like a crunch or a static or anything like that. And I definitely have chapters like that. I wanted the sound to be a presence. As somebody who's autistic, sound has a feeling. It's physical too. It surrounds you. It like encloses on you. And so the sound itself wasn't the sounds itself. It was the sound. Once you introduce the sounds of the buses and the music and the thing, it was more like the way that the sound surrounds and is like around you rather than the sound that you're hearing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think in that case, what you have to.
No.
I think that there is something to be said then in that situation of knowing that your audience is broader than the people that have your lived experience, and to do something in the words, in the writing, to let people know that that's what you're doing, to like clue them in, just because like as a person who doesn't have that lived experience, I won't necessarily like just pick up on that. And I think if I'm given that kind of like directive, even if it's just at the beginning, like that I can then take that with me. But otherwise I'm missing what you're trying to communicate, and this will roll right into kind of our discussion afterwards, but I'm missing what you're trying to communicate because I don't have the lived experience you do. I don't have the ability to just intuitively like understand what you're trying to say. And you're trying to give me information and I'm not seeing it because I don't have that lived experience. And it's not that either one of us is right or wrong. It's just that we're missing each other. And so with a little bit of direction, then the people who aren't living that experience and who don't like automatically go, oh, I know what he's trying to do there. Like they'll be able to just be told like, and it doesn't have to be spoon feeding, but like if you just give a little bit at the beginning, they'll be like, oh, okay, so I know what to look for here. And then they're getting the same experience as the readers who are connecting to it on a more personal level, in terms of just understanding what narratively you're trying to do.
That's fair. What do you call it? I can understand that. And again, I agree that there's no right and wrong here. It's also multi POV, so I feel like the other characters' POVs help to like, you know what I mean. So this would be that character's lived experience versus the other character's lived experiences. So,
Sure.
Yeah. But otherwise, no, I can, yeah, I can agree. As I said before, this was just Lincoln outliney piece, and I said, I'll just bring it over because the problem is that sometimes what ends up happening is I'm working on this new project, and I like it just as much as I liked my debut novel, and I'm still working on the second book of that. But I also have found something, and I'm tapped into something that's like, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
so my brain is really focused on it, and I knew that if I was going to write a prompt, it had to be something based off of what my brain is currently like fixated on, rather than
Yeah.
something to do something different.
Have you guys seen on Netflix? It's a murder mystery called The Residence.
No. I
No,
don't really watch TV. I can't sit through. Very rarely can I sit through like a couple of episodes, let alone a movie.
Well, this isn't a movie. This is a TV show. They're like hour-long episodes, minus whatever they would allot for commercials. But I think you would both really like it. It's about a murder that happens in the White House. But they bring in this woman detective, and Blair tells me that she was in Orange is the New Black. I never saw that show, so I don't know. But they bring in this amazing African American woman detective to solve the murder, and she is just a little bit autistic, just a little bit, and her obsession is bird watching. So the entire time that she's investigating this murder, she's also like out birding in the White House yard, and constantly making references to bird watching and stuff. And it is so beautiful and so well done and so interesting.
Sorry.
What?
There is an author. This reminds me. There is an author who all of her murder mysteries involve bird titles.
Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring it up because it just kind of reminded me of that idea of that fixation of a character, and yeah, it is. I have watched this show twice through already, and I could watch this show over and over again on loop, and just it's so well done. Yeah. Wolf, did you have anything else you wanted to say in defense of your piece?
hold on, forgot that I muted my mic. Sorry, my children were being loud, and they're fur children. I was gonna say, one, it's not necessarily defense. Definitely I brought it over so that way I could figure out where I'm going with this. Because I'm just kind of thing. In my book, All Souls Day happens on December 31st, because who says that in every book everybody needs to have Christmas? All Souls Day is like their equivalent of New Year's Eve mixed with Halloween. I thought that'd be cool and very interesting, and so I needed to work it out in my brain how this was gonna go, and that's what I'm doing.
Isn't All Souls Day a real holiday though?
Yes, what do you call it? It's a placeholder name until I can get a real name.
Okay, so you are going to change it, because otherwise people will be like, "Hey, dude, this is a real holiday," and that's not when it happens.
Yeah, no. I wanted to, what do you call it? I was just using it as a placeholder until I could figure out, what I was gonna use, what the actual name was gonna be.
Skull Fuckery Day or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that on November 8th, and I can't remember the name right now, but November 8th is when France has their Memorial of the Dead, and then November 3rd is when Mexico has their Honor of the Dead. And so it's just who is to say that a culture has to have on October 31st Halloween? They can have their Halloween and their Memorial of the thing on New Year's on the 31st, because sometimes death is seen culturally and spiritually as the beginning of a new cycle, and so to facilitate. So that's what I went with. But we are going to shift directions to the other portion unless we have other things to say about each other's pieces.
The only thing I'm going to say is in response to what you were just talking about, and that is that Coraline and me sat down last night and watched 3 episodes of Doctor Who from the new season that's over, but like this past season. And one of them opens up with just all these fireworks happening, and they're literally happening over the Ferris wheel in London. And Coraline says to me, she's 10. Coraline says, "Oh, this one must take place on the 4th of July." And I was like, "Oh, honey, the 4th of July is only an American holiday." And she's like, "Okay, well, then I guess it takes place in America." And I was like, "No, honey, that Ferris wheel is in London. See, other countries set off fireworks too." Just because like you're used to fireworks being associated with one thing in the United States does not mean that that's how it is in the rest of the world. And other cultures have different traditions, and this is just something that's happening somewhere else in the world where they're using fireworks. And you just reminded me of that in talking about like different cultures having different traditions.
I forgot what I was going to say.
No, that makes sense though. Yeah, like, man, I'm gonna just bring you guys some really weird story crafting prompts. I'm gonna be like, these are the things that I often feel like one of them being holidays or like beings of culture. Like one of my favorite world building tips, and it's for any kind of story because I think that any story can facilitate. That's something is that I don't believe that like one genre is specifically known for X thing because you can take elements of X thing and incorporate them into other X thing. I'm not writing a fantasy. I'm actually writing a techno horror with some elements of fantasy and like magic science. But nobody said that I could not world build for a techno horror. Like we need to be
I need to do better world building, especially for Falling Darkness. I need to rework that whole series.
But okay, so I'm going to shift gears to the communication or the topic, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
I apologize, my thing. So there's something that I wanted to bring up, and we were having discussions about sound, but also just other forms of like conversations that need to be had, I think, in writer spaces. And I've decided that you guys are the cool people at my cool table to actually have this discussion and actually have a nuanced conversation about it without getting like I think that a lot of people forget or that a lot of people don't understand that books are forms of communication and that books have like a distinct language to them, and that when you are speaking to somebody through a book, you are actually speaking and communicating ideas and communicating concepts to them, but you're also communicating through them through language. Neil is no longer on TikTok, and Vespera is working a good majority of the time, but there's currently like the most asinine take that I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm just going to be very blunt and very rude, apparently, when I say this, but it is like this concept or this idea that one, books, what do you call it, don't have an impact on reality, and two, that books are not political or that books should not be political. And it's been
that's an old take. I mean, the books should not be political thing is since, I mean, it was around when I was on TikTok, and I even made a response to it where I was just like, really, books aren't political? And then I just put the cover of The Handmaid's Tale up for like 10 seconds.
Neil, it's gotten worse. They're calling people like witch hunters now. Like we're witch hunting them for getting like and you're like, oh my god. But
I don't want to go on TikTok. Oh, I don't like the stupidity.
Oh yeah, no, it's a trash fire. It's like literally split now Book Talk has literally been like split into factions at this point, but I don't really want to talk about Book Talk itself, but I really want to talk about the concept about how fiction impacts reality. And I think that a lot of people get really confused by this, because if oftentimes that the way that they assume that fiction impacts reality is that they assume it's in the way that the ass backwards take of video games will make your kids violent, when that's factually not true. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how people who have racist or bigoted views write books, and it normalizes that behavior in the zeitgeist, right? Because the reality of the situation is that, like, if you are following the news the way that I am following the news, J.K. Rowling has literally bragged. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the UK, they rolled back on a lot of their trans rights and trans protections. And J.K. Rowling gave money to the organization that basically proposed this in the parliament and proposed this in the House. And so that's how fiction affects reality, is that you give people the money.
Yes, but that's, I mean, I agree, and I don't support J.K. Rowling, and I support boycotting her material in terms of like new product that provides her money. But the fact of the matter is that while you can go back retroactively and look at Harry Potter and find places where it feels like she is making racially like suggestive like themes about groups, that's fine. But nobody was saying that when it first came out. No one started saying that until after she became, you know, this pariah. And she's a pariah. She's awful. But here's the problem, is that saying that we gave her money 25 years ago and now she's supporting bad things with that money means that her books affected politics is not, I don't think, a sincere or a intellectually honest argument. Here's what I will say. I think that it's like going back and saying, like, don't read Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game because now he's a total fascist bigot. Like, yeah, he is, and you can buy that book, you know, secondhand and not give him any money. But the fact of the matter is that book was not fascist or bigoted. But the money that the book gave him certainly contributes to him having a platform that he can then spout his bigotry. But this is after the fact. This is ex post facto. But the problem I have in terms of like straight literal analysis, and this is a little bit like, you know, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but you get books like 1984, Animal Farm, and Handmaid's Tale, right, that demonstrate a functional society that oppresses people, and it's for the purposes of showing us what not to do. And our political leaders look at those books, including like Fahrenheit 451, and go, oh, look, someone wrote us a blueprint. Someone showed us exactly what to do. And I'm at this point going, sci-fi writers, stop it. Stop picturing the dystopic future, because you're just telling our leaders what to do. Like, I will not be surprised when they come out with the Hunger Games because somebody read the Hunger Games and said, hey, here's a good idea. Like, at this point, it's more the people that are throwing up the warning signs that I'm worried about than the people, because the people who are the authors that are awful, that are doing awful things, those things are not reflected in their literature. their literature is fairly benign, and it's just them as people that are bad. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I was gonna let Vespera go, and then I was gonna challenge you a little, Neil.
Okay, so
I do.
my take on the whole political thing is that the reason why some books are technically gotten rid of because they challenge authority or because they change the mindset, like that's what happened with Paradise, the three Dante's Inferno. That book was burned and he was like sent away. Too much stuff, but books, depending on the person, have a way of changing a mindset. And that in itself is like a political minefield because we're all supposed to be sheep. So there.
Right, but here's my point, is that I don't think that the Harry Potter books or Ender's Game changed the political mindset of the people reading them to make them more right-wing. Okay? I just don't. I don't see any evidence of that in the discourse or in society. Okay?
But it's more so someone thinks that this person is doing it, therefore it's okay.
Yeah. So what do you call it? So I'm gonna disagree with you only in like some elements here, okay? So because we have to understand like the fundamentals of how things like function, all right? Because you are correct and in some aspects of it, okay? I'm gonna actually explain this on like a YouTube aspect of it, but that's because it's easier to explain it that way and simplify it. All right. You are correct. Reading Harry Potter in itself does not make somebody right-winged. And I think that that's the fault that a lot of people get, is that they assume that it is a straight, direct line, read Harry Potter, become right-wing. No, the reality of the situation is what happens is the individuals who read Harry Potter then go follow other people who read Harry Potter, who then also have other people who they follow who have content that is more right-wing. And then they follow those people, and then they get information from those people about things. It's a pipeline. Pipelines do exist.
I think
but
that
it's so abstract, though.
Yeah, I think that is akin to the slippery slope fallacy. And
no.
Here's my problem with that. Okay, is that we are talking about this in a community that is that pays attention, right? And so we pay attention to who the author of Harry Potter is and what she's doing and what she's put out since then and what she says. And so, sure, the news will like say, oh, author J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter books, says this, that, and the other thing. But in terms of where she donates her money and stuff like that, the fact of the matter is, I would bet you that 75 to 80% of the people who read Harry Potter as a kid and are now adults, if you ask them who wrote Harry Potter, they wouldn't be able to tell you. They don't know. They just picked up a book and read it, and they read it all, and they like the characters and the world, but they couldn't tell you the name of the author. Okay?
That's not true, though. J.K. Rowling is one of the
No, it is. You are talking from inside a bubble that is. I'm telling you. I promise you. Like I will go even to my father. Okay, my father has been an avid reader since I was a child. My entire life memory of my father is him reading on the couch. Okay, like that is who my father is. And I will go to him and I will be like, what are you reading? And he goes, I don't know. It's some kind of mystery. And I'm like, who's it by? And he's like, I don't know.
Okay.
People don't even know the names of the book. People who are avid readers don't even know the names of the books they're reading or the authors of them. Okay.
So Neil, let's take your theory and put it to the test. So YouTube allows us to put polls down. let us choose a book that's not Harry Potter because everybody's talking about J.K. Rowling, and then we'll basically do a little poll with 4 answers with different author names and ask who wrote this book, and then see the actual answers from the
Great.
public.
Let's
Let's do it.
Who wrote Jurassic Park? Right? It
Michael
was
Crichton.
Michael Crichton, correct.
Yeah.
But if we put that out and we just put 4 names, what are different names that we could put down? Michael Crichton could be obviously should be one of them.
Stephen King, Clive Barker.
Stephen
King, Clive Barker.
Or Lee Child.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go, and then we'll just put a poll up, and we'll see the results, and then we'll come back to this conversation.
I'll do it in the morning, for real.
Let's do it.
For real. I'm just curious because I guarantee you, people don't know. People don't know who wrote books, and just like people don't know who directed movies unless it was directed by Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese. People don't know who directed a movie. They just, or certainly they don't know who wrote a movie. They don't know, and if you, I say you do it with multiple books. Say who wrote The Hunger Games and put it out there with 4 names, and who wrote I don't know what's another big ass who wrote
Game of Thrones.
What's the freaking Sarah J. Maas book?
ACOTAR, but
who wrote ACOTAR, and just put some names out there, and
well, see, my problem is J.K. Rowling is mainly she is the face of Harry Potter, and they prompted her as the face of Harry Potter.
Yes, but people don't pay attention to that. That's what I'm telling you. They don't even know who their senator is, and their senator is on TV every night. They don't know who their representatives are, and they're on TV every night. They don't know they don't, because they can't. They have too much in there. It's not apathy, and it's not. I am not blaming people or saying. I'm saying that they have freaking real life to deal with every day, and they just don't have room in their brain to track who wrote the book that they liked when they were 8 years old.
That's so baffling to me. I haven't read Jurassic Park in forever, but
yes, but you have to understand you're in a bubble. If we did, I'll tell you what. When I do the New York Times mini crossword puzzle in the morning, if there is a sports reference in it of any kind, and it can be the most obvious mainstream sports reference in the world, if there's a sports reference in it, I'm not going to get it. That puzzle will go unsolved because I cannot fill that in. I cannot complete that. I will never ever be able to complete it because it is not on my radar, because I don't have space in my brain for it. If there's literary references, I'll have the whole thing done in 53 seconds. And if there's sports references, forget it. It's never getting finished. And so this is what I'm saying, is that for most of the world, that's reversed. For most of the world, they don't have any fucking clue who wrote anything.
What I was going to say was that me and you had this discussion before on TikTok, because you were discussing about the fact that people when they were children didn't pick up on certain things, and we've had that discussion before, and I think that it is true and it isn't true, because I remember reading Harry Potter when I was a kid and feeling a certain way after a couple of things had happened in the book that made me feel gross and icky, but that's only because I identify with the minority characters. And because...
Right, but are you telling me that how old were you when you read Harry Potter for the very first time?
I was maybe 13.
Okay, so at 13 years old, in your bedroom when you're reading Harry Potter for the first time and he goes to the bank to get his money out and there's the goblins that are controlling his money, did you go, wait, this description of a goblin sounds strikingly familiar to the stereotypes of Jewish people? Did that really happen in your brain at 13 years old?
Okay.
No, it did not. No, it did not. So I'm not saying that it's not there. I'm just saying that the kids read it when they were 13. And this is the other thing. There are a, you know, I'll even give you 5% of people who have read Harry Potter and who loved Harry Potter who read it more than once. Okay. That read it and reread it and are walking around, you know, as an adult with a mug that says I'm a Hufflepuff. Like that they make money on those people, but that is a tiny, tiny minority of people who read it more than once. Most of these people picked up the book, read it once, returned it to the library, and you know, read the next one when it came out, and that's fine. But that's the end of it. They did not go back and reread it and do critical analysis of the text. Most people just read it once and they read it at a very surface level.
And I'm going to go back to the question. So no, I did not have the language at 13 years old to say that this is a depiction of X. All I said was, this depiction makes me feel uncomfortable, but I don't have the language of why it makes me feel uncomfortable. I do remember actually experiencing being uncomfortable with the piece.
It is supposed to make you uncomfortable. Even if it wasn't like a parallel to another thing, to another like actual ethnic group, of course they're describing these characters in a way that is designed to make you uncomfortable because they want you to be uncomfortable with these characters. But there's a difference between saying that I'm uncomfortable with the way they're describing this and then connecting that uncomfortableness to an actual existing ethnic group and saying that that person is now going to have that feeling about that ethnic group because of what was in the text.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What do you call it? I said that it normalizes the behavior. Okay, so Neil, I'm going to further challenge you here right now. Okay, so we're going to go on the topic of Sarah J. Maas. Because we're going to go on the topic of Sarah J. Maas. I know that we're talking about J.K. Rowling. I did put on Discord because there's been several articles. J.K. Rowling's come out and said it herself. There is financial evidence, but J.K. Rowling did donate to the group that has been perpetuating anti.
I know, she's awful. She's a terrible human being, and
so
I hate
she's
her.
Donated money to that. But okay, so we're going to move on to Sarah J. Maas, because the thing is that this is what I'm talking about. Sarah J. Maas wrote a post on Instagram revealing her cover of her book. Mind you, this was the second time using the death of Breonna Taylor, a Black woman, and that's going to be important here in this story. So hold on to that piece of information. So she used the death of a Black woman to perpetuate her, to platform herself. And when the Black community got upset and asked her to remove it, she did not remove it. Now, in itself, in isolation, that behavior is inappropriate. However, there has also been information that came out by the Black community that she oftentimes has a habit of killing her Black women in her stories to perpetuate the white woman to grow as a character. Those two behaviors exist at the same time, and those two behaviors normalize the behavior of Black people being indisposable. There has been a high that's what I'm talking about. There's been a high.
So that's different. That's definitely different than the J.K. Rowling situation, and I agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a trope. It's a joke at this point that Black artists and Black filmmakers play off of all the time, that the Black guy in a horror movie is the one that's going to get killed. Like you have 4 white guys or 4 white people and a black person, and the black person's the one that's going to get killed first in the horror movie because that's what always happens. And is it detestable? Yes. Is it something that we need to like acknowledge? And like, yeah, obviously. I'm not excusing her for doing that in her writing. I'm saying that obviously that's indicative of her values and her perception, and that should be taken into account when people decide whether or not to spend their money with her, for sure. And I think that, you know, J.K. Rowling's current actions should be taken into account when people decide whether or not to continue spending money on her IP. For sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
we're not arguing about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I don't necessarily, like I said, I think that their misunderstanding is that I'm saying, or the misunderstanding that people are saying is that this will make you a transphobic, when no,
Right.
What I'm trying to say is that it will normalize the behavior when people do harm onto these communities.
Yes, and I think that in the case of Sarah J. Maas, that is a more compelling argument than in the case of J.K. Rowling. I think that the argument in terms of J.K. Rowling is a losing argument, and is not serving the mission that you're trying to serve. Whereas I think that you can make that argument for Sarah J. Maas, and it is compelling, and it does serve the mission that you're trying to serve.
I disagree so wholeheartedly, especially as somebody who is non-binary who is trans. Like, what do you call it? The harm done onto the trans community is almost just as much as like other individual thing. It's all intersectional, and individuals who, we are seeing an increase in anti-trans rhetoric in what do you call it? And the trans community has asked over and over and over and over again for people to stop platforming J.K. Rowling. They continue buying the Harry Potter game, or where J.K. Rowling already said that she gets royalties from Universal and the video game, and what she's going to be doing with the money. She's already said it, and
I know, but here's the thing, Wolf, and this goes back to what I was saying before, right? Is that if you grabbed a generic person off the street and said, hey, if you buy this video game, if you stream this movie, if you buy this book new in a bookstore, you are giving money to a person whose platform supports these things, and she has publicly said that she's giving money to work against these issues. I think most people would be like, oh, that sucks, and maybe even 50% of those people would say, I'm not going to give my money to it. But I think that the problem is the majority of people don't know. And if they have heard it kind of sideways, halfway, you know, in their periphery, they've got too much to worry about in their day-to-day life to like sit there and go, okay, who am I not buying again? Because if you're going to do it with Sarah J. Maas and you're going to do it with J.K. Rowling, then you have to say, well, now I have to like know everybody, and I have to. And I'll tell you what, I'm literally dealing with this in my own life, because when Target took down their DEI initiatives and Amazon took down their DEI initiatives, we stopped shopping with those. And I was fine with that. But Blair literally, before we go to any store, will like look up the news and try to figure out if they've deplatformed DEI. And I'm like, I can't. Like, I know that Target's a big one and I'm willing to boycott that. And I know Amazon's a big one and I'm willing to boycott that. But I cannot say I need to go and get crayons for my kids. What store can I go to? Let me look up all the stores and see what their DEI position is. Like, I do not have the time in my life to do that for every product I have to buy at every store I have to go to. And so most people will say the same thing in terms of this, that they support, gay rights, trans rights, LGBTQ. They support, Me Too. They support, Black Lives Matter. But if you're saying that every time they go to the bookstore and pick a book up off the shelf and read the back of the book and go, this sounds interesting, that they also have to do a Google search to see whether or not that author is problematic, they're going to say, fuck it. Like, they can't. No, that is not sustainable.
See, and I fully disagree with that concept. I'm somebody who actually does Google and research and all that stuff because, what do you call it? But that's because as a trans non-binary person who's disabled and autistic and a bunch of other things where I intersect and thing is the reality of the situation is that what people are not really looking at when people bring up this argument, what they're really not looking at least in my personal perspective, and don't get me wrong, I'm not mad at anybody or anything like that, but is that in my personal perspective, hold on, my brain is booting up. I apologize. Is the way that I approach this is that I don't approach it from the concept that people are approaching it at. And oftentimes the way that people approach this is in that a perspective, right? And that perspective is, what do you call it? Hello, brain. My brain has decided that it's going to not cooperate here. I'm going to talk very messy, and hopefully we can translate what I'm trying to say. The perspective that they're coming at it from is centering themselves in their own exhaustion in the way that they have to research every little bit of thing. But the way that I approach it when I'm looking something up is I'm approaching it from a humanistic perspective. I am approaching it from the perspective of what can I do to mitigate harm? And that's the reality of the situation. Is it's not necessarily about boycotting everything. It's about what am I doing in my day-to-day life to mitigate as much harm as I can, right? It's about doing the most impact that you can. And this was something that I was talking about on TikTok too. So many people are focused on the intent, but they're never focused on their impact. And we should be focused more on the impact of what do you call it thing. So maybe we don't boycott every author, and actually that's something that we're discussing right now as well, is the discussion that what people are asking you is not to not buy these products. I think that there are some people out there who definitely think, but we want to get to the point where you don't platform these people. Like, you can read it in your own time in the core, quietly, but don't platform J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, but Wolf, here's the thing about that, right? Nobody is platforming J.K. Rowling except for the mainstream media, and the mainstream media is doing it because they see her as famous, and therefore they're going to get views based on it. So if she does something awful, they're going to, of course, platform it, because their only interest is to create as much drama on their network so that people watch it and rage watch it and everything. So they are not the mainstream media, and by this I mean literally all of television. Okay, all of television, all of print media, all of magazine media, like all of it. Their entire purpose, their entire responsibility in existing is to make money for their investors, and therefore their whole goal is to get as many people to listen and watch as possible at any cost. Okay, so of course, but nobody that I have seen in independent world of online people that discuss these things is platforming
I
J.K.
highly
Rowling.
disagree.
Okay.
So me and you exist in two different worlds, and I exist in two different bubbles as well. So when Hogwarts Legacy came out, which is the video game, mind you, that she gets royalties off of that game. What do you call it? That was a highly popular game to live stream at the time. So that is platforming J.K. Rowling. You've got Universal Studios, and the Harry Potter, and she gets royalties from that. And you have people doing Universal Studio Harry Potter videos. That's platforming her. Then you've got Manacle that came out recently. That's a Harry Potter fan fiction, but she still gets what do you call it? The publicity of it. That's still platforming her. Publishing. What do you call it? Harry.
So you're saying that platforming is anytime anyone talks about it?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, fair enough. I was using platforming in terms of giving her a platform to speak her mind, as opposed to just acknowledging her existence. So if you're talking about just acknowledging her existence, yes, you've got a point. But you know, I think that in that, if that's what we're talking about, then in my opinion, and I agree that there are people that are giving her IP attention that probably shouldn't. But J.K. Rowling would be the equivalent of Target or Amazon, right? Or Walmart.
Cool.
Whereas what I'm saying is, if I have to look up before I go to the grocery store, which grocery store can, and we're boycotting Aldi right now because they quietly, even though apparently they still have a DEI program within the company, they took it off the website, and so we're boycotting Aldi. Great. So now I lose my source of less expensive groceries, but fine. But if I have to look up every time I need to go to the grocery store, you know, which grocery stores this week have done what, and can I still support the grocery store? And then I finally find a grocery store I can support, and then I walk in and I start filling my cart, and I go, oh, well, this pineapple's from Dole. Let me look up whether or not I can buy from Dole, because what is their, you know, public policy, and are they problematic? And then I go to buy cereal and I go, okay, Kellogg, Post, which one of these can I buy from, because which one of them is most problematic? And then I go, oh, bagels, can I buy Thomas's bagels? Have they done anything I can't do that for every product I put in my cart every day that I have to go shopping to feed my family. Because first of all, it's just too much work. Like I just do not have the bandwidth. I have 5 kids I'm feeding. I have, you know, a house to take care of. I have a job to do. Like I just don't have the time in my life to do that for everything. But also acknowledging that every one of these companies, almost every single one of them, is a publicly traded corporation whose entire fiduciary responsibility is to make money for their shareholders, which I disagree with. I like eat the rich. Like I am down with like burning down capitalism. But the fact of the matter is, the places where I need to buy the things that I need to survive are still capitalist organizations, and they will always put money before people. And what am I supposed to do?
No, and like I said, it's all about what do you call it? As I said before, it's about mitigating and reducing harm. So, like, yeah, okay, so we can't boycott Aldi right now, but we can boycott Target and Amazon. That's fine. We can do that. Also, there's a really great app that I use that I really like, and it makes things super simple and super easy because for the most part, what do you call it? Once I find something that I really like, as long as it's called the No Thanks app, and they basically, you scan the barcode and it tells you whether or not the individual, like that's a company, whether or not thing, and it just gives you a general information. But once I did that and scanned the products that I got, what do you call it? I just make a mental note of it. But otherwise, I mean, I'm eating because I'm autistic. I eat the same things over and over again. I just know all of my products are good because I used the app once.
And fair enough, except that Aldi was great until they weren't, right? Like all these companies, they could be fine this week and next week they could do something that is atrocious that you need to like send them a message, right? So I hear you. And I am boycotting Aldi. Like I have not shopped at Aldi in 6 months and it is killing me, but I'm doing it. And I'm trying to do the thing, right? But I'm just saying that like it is unsustainable to ask us in terms of grocery shopping and in terms of putting gas in our car, in terms of buying car insurance, in terms of where our mortgage is through, like all, you know, what corporation are you paying rent to on your apartment? Your apartment complex is owned by some real estate company. Are they problematic? Like you cannot in life make sure that you live ethical. What is the term, the phrase? There is no ethical consumption under
Right,
capitalism.
exactly. But
Right? There is no ethical consumption under capitalism. So you can do your best, but at some point you have to like accept that like in order to survive in a capitalist society, you are going to be contributing to an unethical process. And so when you say that, then you just have to start prioritizing. And if a person decides to prioritize like one thing and say, you know what, I don't give a shit about the authors that I read, right? Then at some point, like that's not something that is I don't judge people on that, I guess.
well, I think like what do you call it? One, the way that I separate the way that I consume as an consumer in capitalism is things outside of my control and things inside of my control. I don't go to Best Buy for any of my electronics. I go to pawn shops and I go to thrift stores. Like that's my contribution because I just like whatever. I'm gonna find a keyboard, and if it means that I gotta go to like 5 different pawn shops, my day is gonna suck, but I'll do it. Um, but what do you call it? But then when it comes to like who your real estate company is using, well, that's outside of your control. That's how I am able to like sustain the amount of thing. Like, what do you call it? Unfortunately, I have to shop at Whole Foods because I have a shit ton of allergies, right? I'm allergic to dairy. I'm allergic to pork. I'm allergic to chicken. I'm allergic to beef. I'm allergic to. I have to go to Whole Foods because unfortunately they are the only ones besides a couple of local co-ops. But what do you call it? That's have a lot of dairy-free food. So I have to go. That is literally outside of my control. And like that's how I mitigate it is what is inside of my control and what is outside of my control. And I think that once people started recognizing that, it would become less exhausting. Is like by sitting down with yourself and being like, what is outside of my control? Well, my allergies are outside of my control. I have to go to Whole Foods. I don't have any other option. And like the local co-ops here are more expensive than Whole Foods. I will sit here. I have seen some of the craziest fucking prices at local co-ops. They'll be like $8.99 for 4 biscuits that are non-dairy. You're like, the fuck? Why are these $9, guys? Like, and for 4 biscuits, $9. So like that's outside of my control. But inside of my control, I don't go to Target. I don't go to Walmart very often. I detest the thing. Those are inside of my control because they were already places that I don't go to often already, where I could literally just eliminate them because I'm just like,
poor Vespera is
I
dying
know.
over here. She's just like
I'm trying so hard.
We could end it here, but you know, I think that that's the best way to approach it is not in exhaustion and like the outside and inside of control. If we take that
But
from
people
consideration,
don't think of it like that though. They just don't.
they don't, but they should because it would bring less exhaustion. Inside of your control, you could read the problematic authors, or like, oh no, he left. We killed him again.
I promise I've been paying attention to the argument.
It's not even really an argument. It's always a discussion into it.
Discussion.
We do, and it's fine. It's like we have fun. Wolf and I both recognize that like this is almost like just sport. Like instead of playing tennis, we just come on here and like talk about this shit, and like nothing's like this is what I used to think I was doing with my brother until I found out that my brother was taking it really seriously and getting really upset. But Wolf is exactly what I've always like wanted in terms of like someone to just like, yeah, we're fighting about this stuff, but neither of us actually take it like we're again. Like Wolf and I know that we are on the same page. Like we agree with each other, but there's nuance there, right? And the fact of the matter is, like, you know, most people do not have the bandwidth to deal with any of this shit. They just don't. They just want to live their life with their family and their friends and get the things they need and not have to like think about things.
Yeah, and like the problem that I think that I have with that approach and like, you know, thing, and this is how me and you always think, because I've always brought in the minority experience, is that I've lived for 30, you know, plus years at this point, and I've consistently had to think about these things because my life is always in danger, or somebody might not like me, or that the environment is not safe, or I might be around unsafe people, etc. So I constantly have to expend that bandwidth.
Look,
and I've been doing it for
Wolf,
30 years.
I understand. I am a straight white male in America. Like literally the entire world is against me. It's like I am the most oppressed group of people in America. So I totally understand what you're saying. No, I hear you. Like I know that my lived experience is privileged beyond like 90% of people. And so, you know, when I'm sitting here going, God, I have 5 stores I have to keep track of that I'm not shopping at. God, don't ask me to add another one. I can't add it. I understand that sounds like bullshit. But what I'm saying is, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that me, like, keeping up with the 5 stores that I am boycotting is above what 89% of Americans are doing. That most Americans are like, I don't even want, like, fuck that. Like, I cannot deal with it. Just, I have kids that I need to feed and get to soccer. And I don't think that is a cultural thing. I don't think it's a race thing. I don't think it's a sexual orientation thing. I think that it is a human thing of like, I have a family. They need food on the table. They have things they have to get to. And that's all that's all the bandwidth I have.
Right. And like the thing is, the nuanced thing about that though is it goes back to that poem, right? First they came for the migrant and I said nothing, then they and
yes.
And then they came
all
for
it
me.
takes for evil to flourish is for good people to do nothing.
Yep.
Right? It's I get it. I'm with you. And I am sure that the Secret Service is going to be showing up at my house for things that my Amazon Alexa has heard me say in my house recently. I hear you. Like I cannot talk to you about the things that I think this country needs to do in order to survive because we cannot talk about it. But that being said, like I do not think also let's just put it this way. Like I think everyone should do as much as they can to stand up for minority groups, oppressed people, and the environment every day. Everybody should do everything that they can, okay? But I'm not going to judge what a person decides is within their bandwidth that they can do. You know, maybe they say, hey man, I make sure I throw my Diet Coke bottle into the recycling bin every day. Okay, if that's all you got the bandwidth to do, then great. You know, like whatever a person says they can do, I believe them when they say that is what they can do.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I judge people, but I definitely feel like I'm at that stage again because have a different lived experience, being mixed and all of that jazz, and sitting in so many intersectionality things. I think that like I feel, at least from the minority perspective, I think that that's a really nice and wonderful like sentiment, but like the indigenous people have been like talking about this for like 200 plus years. The black communities are speaking about this for like the last 500 years, and like these communities continue talking, and it continues to feel like what you call it, talking to the void. And so like on one hand I like get it, and I don't want to judge people if the only thing they can do is recycle. The other problem is that our lives are still on the line, and
Yeah.
you are just putting a single piece of a Coke bottle into a thing, and you're like, hello, like my people are being taken off the streets, they're being literally fucking kidnapped at this point. Can we like step it up? You don't have the bandwidth for something that I've been doing for like the 30 plus years.
Yeah, but Wolf, and we're getting way off topic, and
Yes, we are.
also
Go
the
ahead
spirit is
and
about to
go.
die. But I just want to, like, Wolf, you and I can talk about this offline, but I just want to like bring up this notion of like when you start talking about that level of systemic problems, right? There's nothing a person can do. And so because if a single person tries to do something, they're just going to end up in a gulag as well. So it needs the entire society, and that is an organizational problem that is beyond what we can talk about here on this program.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, no, I agree. But I also do think that it slightly falls into like the book talk. Like, hold on, one final thought. It's my closing statement here. My closing.
That's where it's like, I'm going to fall asleep.
I'll make it very quick. And it goes back to the whole entire what we can be in control of and what we can't be in control of. You're more than willing to read J.K. Rowling, but I wish that the focus.
I'm not.
No, I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking you in the plural sense.
Okay.
But like, what you could be in control of is how about we focus on platforming minority groups. Like how like let's platform these communities instead of like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like
I do. I think you and I need to have an offline discussion about this because I think it's
yes.
more complicated. I just have one quick 20-minute thing that I want to say real quick before just it's like fuck
I
you.
love you all.
Okay.
I
Good
miss
night,
you all.
everybody. We'll
Good
see you
night.
in 2 weeks.
It's Neil's turn, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
have something on the spreadsheet tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, now I have to figure out how to close this. I don't know how. Okay. Good night, guys.
Good night. I appreciate you.
Yeah, me too.